Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, Magic Keys are all sold out for now, but there is a nice ticket deal for California residents. Lots of Star Wars news.
Fantasmic returned. Where to best see it? A popular attraction is down for now. We opened the DL Weekly vault to visit one of our blue magical friends, aka Dylan, and so much more. DL Weekly starts now.
Howdy, partners. For your safety, remain seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast. And be sure to watch your ears. If any of you folks are wearing hats or glasses, best remove them, because Tag and Teresa have the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of June 1st, 2022. I'm Tig Bushman.
And I'm Teresa Urban. Thank you to Keith N for increasing your support on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, of course, access to our Discord community, and so much more. If you would like some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join the community. Just a quick announcement for community members. We did choose our next book for book club. Our book club will be gathering together in July to discuss Cleaning the Kingdom, Night, Day, Past, and Present, which of course may sound very familiar because our good friends Ken and Lynn from the Sweep Spot actually wrote that. Lynn has been gracious enough to join us for book club, so be sure to check out Patreon and Discord for more details.
Well, it's that time again for our friend Eric over at Concierge to catch us up on the rest of the Disney Universe news.
Hello, everyone. This is Eric Johnson with Concierge, and welcome to the D180. While Tig and Teresa cover all things Disneyland, in the D180 we take a spin around the rest of the Disney universe, and we do it in 180 seconds. Let's jump right in. We begin our adventure this week in the Walt Disney World Resort, where Epcot is finishing up its Flower and Garden Festival run. What's next? Yep, it's the Food and Wine Festival starting this July. This is the big one every year, the festival that started in a hotel conference center over a weekend and has grown to 128 days this year. We are now privy to the guest list for the festival's Eat to the Beat concert series. Fans of music from the 80s and 90s are in for a treat with some festival favorites coming back to the stage. Baha Men, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Christopher Cross. Not enough? Hoobastank. That do it for you? Fine. Hanson, Boyz II Men. Seriously, this festival is known for its great music most nights of the week. Tiffany, Billy Ocean. If you want to stake out the best spots for your favorite acts, you have several options to eat to the beat. No, that's not my pun. Remember, the Eat to the Beat series of dining packages lets you enjoy a nice meal and reserved seating for the night's shows. Make reservations in Germany, Canada, Morocco, the American Adventure, the Land Pavilion, or the Living Seas. All really great options for a meal with the chance to see your favorite acts up close. Also, the new Guardians ride just opened, but you know all about that, right, listener? Of course you do. So let's head eastward to the fields outside Paris. Disneyland Paris inches ever closer to a major upgrade this July. Coming soon, start with a briefing from Captain Marvel and Iron Man, and your family will be a part of the action. Special photo pass moments, extra meet and greets with your favorite Marvel heroes, and new rides await. This new area at the Walt Disney Studios Park looks like they took the DCA Avengers campus and punched it up a few notches. All of the best moments are there, with vehicles and innovative locations to meet your heroes. There will also be two rides, one a version of Web Slingers from DCA, and the other a simulator that will take you and Iron Man on a mission against a planetary threat. Or I guess you could go to Epcot and ride the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Seriously, can't wait. I won't be there for a few more weeks, but I'm looking forward to racing to the new coaster at Rope Drop a few times on my trip in June. Really, the concept is fantastic. We have a new pavilion, the Wonders of Xandar Pavilion, where we can pretend that Peter Quill and all of his friends were part of the Epcot universe from the start. The Guardians of the Galaxy are real and visited Epcot back in the 80s. Ultimately, this is a coaster most of the family will enjoy. There's story, there are thrills, there are great effects. This looks like it's going to be amazing. And that's 180 seconds. I hope you enjoyed our quick spin around the rest of the Disney universe. If you'd like to learn more about these Disney adventures or just have a few questions, please come on over. Visit the social media and websites of both DL Weekly and us, their official travel planners, concierges. We look forward to planning something special for you and your family. I'm Eric Johnson, and this has been your D180.
Thanks, Eric, for all of that information from the rest of the Disney universe.
Now let's get to the news.
A few months ago, the top 2 Magic Key levels were listed as sold out. This week, the bottom 2 Magic Keys have also sold out. There's no word on when or if they will go back on sale. Speculation online thinks that this is because of the impending lawsuit around reservations and access tied to the Magic Key program. Even more speculation online thinks that the program may get reworked again before going back on sale. Only time would tell, and again, these are only speculation and rumors. There's been no official word from Disney, with the exception of the fact that they have suspended sales of all of the keys.
I genuinely don't know what's going to happen here, so I don't even have any speculation.
You don't even have any speculation.
No,
well,
I don't even have...
full of speculation.
I don't even have speculation because this could be just a pause. This could be... this could be anything. So I just really hope that this isn't like the end of the end of the AP Magic Key program.
Oh, I think that would be... I think that they would have rioters at the gates. There's people rioting now, so I don't know, and I don't know what the answer is either. So on the Mice Chat article that we have linked in the show notes for this, I read a lot of comments because people have a lot of stuff to say about things. And one of the things we have actually talked about was one of the suggestions in the comments, which was maybe they should get rid of the annual pass program and sell like a set of tickets, like 15 tickets at a discounted rate, or not 15 tickets, but like 15 days, and you can use them over the course of the year, and then maybe you get like discounts on tickets beyond that or whatever. That to me seems good because, like, for us, we know that we go not more than a certain amount of days per year usually. So if we could figure out how many days we wanted to go for the year, we could just buy whatever that plan is, and then you don't just... so it limits kind of everybody, because if you buy a pass, technically if there's reservations available, you'd be able to go up to hundreds of times. I think the thing that's hard for me with this and trying to figure out, if you could, how do you fix it? What do you do different? Sure. All that stuff. For me, I haven't had an issue with reservations or with the key program as it is now. Sure, have there been some inconveniences, like for example, when we were just there for Disneyana, we did not have available, like we couldn't, even if there were reservations available, we were completely blocked out for that Saturday of that weekend, which was fine. We went into that trip knowing that we had that restriction and that we didn't have that, but I don't know, I guess it's really hard for me to say anything because I haven't had as negative of an experience or perception or feeling that other people do. So sure. It's hard for me to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, with this because I don't think it's as clearly. It's not. No system's perfect. Please right. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know how they're ever going to be able to do something to please everyone, because we know that they're never going to be able to go back to how things had been sure. with APs. And I guess my perception and my view on it's a little different because my only AP prior to this had this kind of because you had a flex window, pass. I had the flex pass, so that was my expectations always been the flex pass. So it didn't seem overwhelming to me that we now have, the reservations and all that to work in as well. So are there things that could have made things slightly easier and nicer for me? Sure, of course there are. But sure. Overall, I've been satisfied with it. So that's why it's just I just don't know. I feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard spot, and I feel for the people that have to try and figure this out and figure out what to do next, because there's a lot of people that really love their passes and really cherish their passes and don't want their passes to go away right. completely. So, and I just hope that it doesn't have to come to that they don't just say, we've tried, it's not working. We've tried one thing and it failed. Well, yeah, I don't know. And the hard thing too, I think, is if they try to wipe how do you even start over now? Because you have people that we had a weekly tier that just purchased a pass literally like the day or two before they suspended all the sales of passes. So you've got people that are brand spanking new pass holders and other people that are coming up on renewing. So it's just wacky.
Yeah. To me, if they were going to fix something with the parks right now, Genie Plus is the main issue.
I think Genie is where the focus needs to be as far as guest satisfaction.
Yeah.
I think that program has
tweaked.
More problems and needs a little more TLC.
Yeah.
Needs a little more shining up.
I just wish that
polishing.
I wish it would be more like, I'm fine. So pricing wise, fine. I get it. Like, whatever. I just wish that it acted more like Max Pass, where you could go where, like, the availability of things and being able to go on the same attraction multiple times in one day. Like Max Pass, you could, right? So you could get a Max Pass for Space Mountain, and once you used it, you could get another Max Pass for Space Mountain.
So if you just wanted to ride Space Mountain all day with your Max Pass,
so I wish they would bring that, and I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine paying a little extra to go on something like Rise of the Resistance and skip the line and stuff like that. Like, I get it. That's very limited. There's not a lot of things. But I just think the ratio that they have needs to be worked out, and then also the flexibility with it.
I'm telling you, I'm like laughing inside because pre-pandemic, Teresa was very much, I love Fast Pass, I love Max Pass, and Tag was very much, they need to get rid of it. We need to stand by. Look at all these queues that we're missing.
It's true.
So, but no, it's not true, because you're the one that just said that you'd be paying for all of that. You'd be paying for the passes, and you'd be paying.
No,
to
what
skip
I'm saying
the line.
is, if they're going to have
I think they need to go back. I think.
Oh no, I agree.
If I were to fix this problem in the Disney universe, I would. It's not going to be a popular opinion, so I apologize, but I would raise the price of Genie by a ton.
Okay.
Because I feel the problem is
too many people use it.
The ratio. So you need fewer people using it. So it's like a supply and demand thing.
Sure.
Limit the supply, so then you're going to have a much higher price. So they're still going to be making money. They're just not going to be, it's not going to be tons of people paying little amounts. It's going to be a few people paying big amounts, and that would help with your standby, because then the flow of your standby is going to be better, which I feel if the lines are moving, that just helps the overall flow and feel of the park, which then in turn helps the overall flow and feel of everyone's park day.
I don't mind standing in a line as long as it's moving. Mm-hmm. And the problem with Genie is there are times when you were, like when we were there and we were in line for Guardians, and it felt like the line just did not move forever, it felt like. And it was like, come on, can we just, like, even if you let just like one group, if you just do like a 1-to-1, like the line would keep moving. Mm-hmm. But you're right, they have to fix the ratio. Which reminds me, because you said raise the price. That was another suggestion that I saw in the comments for the annual pass program is have the annual pass levels, but have them be like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000.
I think people still
people would buy them, but I don't think you'd have as many.
That's true. It's I'm telling you,
it's complicated.
I'm glad that it is not my responsibility to fix these problems. That's what I have to say. But some good news, though, for weekly tiers who are going to the parks that aren't Magic Key holders. There is a great ticket deal available. California residents can purchase summer tickets to Disneyland starting as low as $83 per day. The ticket is a 3-day, 1-park-per-day ticket for $249, Monday through Thursday admission, with weekend tickets starting at $299. For $60 more per ticket, park hopping can be added. Tickets are valid for trips from June 3rd through September 15th, 2022. Not a bad value to get to see all the nighttime entertainment that has recently returned.
So this is cool if you're a California resident, and now that there aren't any keys, let's say you wanted to go to the park, you could buy one of these. I don't think that's too bad. I do think it's interesting that they keep making it all these like California deals. Limited, because like I look at this. So James and I, we had a funny thing. I didn't tell you this. So James and I told James, I'm like, I really want to see Fantasmic, and we've had all the stress with our exchange boys. We should try to do like a 4-day trip or something. And he goes, your key's blocked out. I said, we could buy tickets. And so we looked. 2 4-day non-park hopper tickets was like $700 and something. And then James looked up flights, and it was like 9 something or more for just the two of us. And I was like, well, that's not happening. But it would be nice to have a deal like this for people. Like, why does it have to just be limited to California people? What about Arizona people who might be close?
Pause that.
Oh, it is California.
It
It
is.
used to be Southern California, so we've at least expanded from Southern California to all of California.
They should just call it like Western U.S. tickets, where it's like Nevada, Arizona, Oregon, Washington.
Yeah.
What do you think? You think this is a good deal?
I do think it's a good deal. I think it's interesting to me because I feel like this is something that's really nice for people that are key holders that have family visiting or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's an inexpensive thing and a way for them to kind of share their happy place, maybe for people that aren't quite the same level of Disney crazy as we are. So I think it's nice.
It's also nice because if you do have blocked out passes, this isn't too expensive to get 3 or 4 days. Well, Star Wars Celebration was this past weekend across the street from the Disneyland Resort at the Anaheim Convention Center. A lot of Star Wars news was announced, even some parks news. Boba Fett and Fennec Shand were announced to be coming to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and then they were there over the weekend. Din Djarin, better known as the Mandalorian, and Grogu, better known as the Child, were also announced to be showing up in the area soon. This is a break from the strict timeline that Imagineering has placed on the area, but promise that the characters from the different eras will not interact or be in the same area at the same time.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this saying you all know that I am not a Star Wars person. But Vern and I were kind of chatting about it, and we were kind of thinking it wouldn't be too far out of the realm. It wouldn't be like someone that's like not even born yet, per se,
Sure.
that'd be there. 'Cause it's could kind of sort of, it'd be a stretch, but, you know, maybe. So it's not like you couldn't necessarily have like Han Solo or Darth Vader or people that are, or Luke and Leia necessarily. Maybe Luke, but older Luke, but not young Luke.
Sure.
You know, not like, yeah. So, and or Yoda, like, because those characters, their stories have
earlier,
ended.
yeah.
Their stories were earlier and their stories have ended. So that wouldn't make sense to have those types of people in there. So I don't know how, again, I am not a Star Wars person, so I could be completely wrong, but I'm not sure really how far off it is. And I also had to chuckle when you said Grogu, better known as the Child. I'm pretty sure it's Grogu, better known as Baby Yoda.
Well, Baby Yoda too, but the Child was another. Yeah.
Grogu,
all the
better known as Baby
merchandise
Yoda.
when he didn't have his name was the Child. So,
He will always be Baby Yoda in our hearts.
What do you think about them locking Galaxy's Edge into a time frame? Do you think it's that important to the average guest?
I think it was more important when they were going to have it be much more immersive than it is.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It does. Because I feel like this point, a lot of people were just kind of like, you know, I want to see the things that I grew up with, the Han Solo, the Leia, the Luke. Like, I want to see those people in there.
The thing that's hard about that, though, is they have their places still in Tomorrowland. So that's I think why they thought. I mean, and that could be going to a galaxy far, far away soon. But they need to figure. They're too fractured right now by having Star Wars in two different areas, in my opinion. And I feel like we're a little fractured with having a touch of Pixar in Tomorrowland too. But Tomorrowland needs help. But if a revamp of Tomorrowland is coming, and if Star Wars gets shifted, moved away from Tomorrowland, then I think it would make more sense for all of the Star Wars people to be together in Galaxy's Edge. Mm-hmm. But with it being fractured, I think it makes, with it having two spots in the park, in the same park even, spots in the same park, I think it made more sense for it to be two separate stories.
Sure. Now, I will say, I don't think the average guest cares. No other land in Disneyland is locked into a specific time. You got Fantasyland. There's stuff from all over the place that nobody cares.
Yeah, but remember, Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be very
right,
immersive,
but it didn't. So
and it didn't.
They jettisoned that. So why not jettison this other thing?
I think we're having a slow shift for that.
I do want to say that I have been very surprised the last couple times we've been there, because I find myself like enjoying just being in Galaxy's Edge. I enjoy the food back
when
there.
When it's cool.
Well, yeah.
Not when it's warm.
Well, that was a Florida thing mostly, because that was terrible. But I really like Docky Bay 7. I really like Ronto Roasters. I really like Doc Ondar's, like, little shop there. I always like to go in there and just see what they have. It seems like they always have kind of new and interesting things.
Den of antiquities.
Yeah. And so I find myself kind of just liking the vibe back there.
Sure.
But I wish there was like more. Like I feel like I'm not necessarily entertained when I'm back there, but there's things that I enjoy going to.
The hard thing with Galaxy's Edge, I feel like I apologize to everyone. This podcast, we have a news story, and then we go in like 10 different directions, somehow branching off that news story. But the thing that's difficult with Galaxy's Edge is the layout, because it's just kind of, I don't know how you could, because there's a lot of kind of blank space, because you're getting from, thing to thing to thing. So it's not like Fantasyland where it's like everything's kind of around this like central
the carousel or something,
central thing. So yeah, it's something needs to be done. Anyone who's been to Oga's Cantina in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge will know DJ Rex spinning tunes for the patrons of the establishment. Soon guests can listen to some of his tracks on a new album that will be released. No firm date at the moment, but we will keep you updated once we see it online.
I do like the music that he spins, and I hope that whatever playlist they have, I hope they have his commentary, because I can never hear it, and I want to have that. I want to be able to listen to whatever this album is. I want to be able to put headphones on, close my eyes, and feel like I'm in Oga's.
There you go.
That's what I want, and I hope that that's what comes out of this for sure.
I feel like that it will be. I hope it will be.
Well, signs outside of the Star Wars launch bay in Tomorrowland tease the return of the combined museum, store, and photo op. No word yet on when this will reopen, but cast members are stationed outside of the location, telling guests it should be returning soon.
So am I happy that they're going to do something with this space? Yes.
Okay.
Do I feel like this is a complete waste of space? A bigger yes. I just...
What should they do with this space?
It needs something. It needs an attraction. It needs a show. It needs something. But just being kind of an expo and walk around, look at stuff thing is... If you're going to do a walk around, look at stuff thing, it needs to be updated, and it needs to be... Because last time was hey, look at this cool new land we're building.
Right.
So it was, very much... Which was interesting and fun. It's kind of like Blue Sky Cellar. I don't think it's reopened yet, but last time I was there, it was hey, look at our concept for Pixar Pier after and Pixar Pier existed.
Yep.
So I feel like if they're going to have these spaces where they're going to kind of use to build people's excitement about new things, they need to be refreshing them, so they just feels a little stagnant. And I feel like Launch Bay just seems like it looks like it's huge, like it's a lot of space, and we know space is very valuable in Disneyland. So I wish they could do something more exciting.
I feel like there's a bunch of those spaces in Tomorrowland right now. Like you were just talking about a show, and I thought the Magic Eye Theater or the Tomorrowland Theater or whatever it's called
big empty
is
space.
Just not even doing anything right now. And that would be a great thing to eat up a good chunk of people.
It's like the elephant graveyard of Disneyland. It really is. It's very... We were waiting to get on Space Mountain. I don't remember which trip this was. And I just remember looking out and looking at all these things, and I'm like, well, there's the remnants of the People Mover, and there's the remnants of the... it was just... When you're standing up and looking out at Tomorrowland, it's just kind of a lot of reminders of things from the past. It's not...
Sure.
It's not the excitement of the future that it's supposed to be. So I just... Poor Tomorrowland, that's all I gotta say. So, yay that they're doing something, but I will challenge them. I don't think they're doing enough. But, bright side, I'm going to try and be the bright side of this. At least it's something that's temporary, just to here, we'll put something here.
Something needs to be open, yeah.
It's not something permanent. So, that could mean that there are plans, and they're just doing something with the space for now.
I hope so.
I very much
really hope that come September we get an announcement of a new Tomorrowland.
Me too. As I'm sure all of the listeners
and hopefully
feel.
I almost feel like it could literally be anything and it would be better than what it is now. Even if it was awful, at least they were trying something at this point. Yeah.
Well, this past weekend, Fantasmic returned to the rivers of America to delight guests once again. The projections look clear and bright, and the show scenes look fresh. And the show was amazing as always. The best way to get a great seat for the show is to book the Riverbell Terrace dining package for $50 per guest, since they are using the same reserved seating area that Blue Bayou typically uses. However, once the Blue Bayou reopens, this area is expected to be shifted to the side more to accommodate the Blue Bayou guests. Hungry Bear location is across from the Haunted Mansion and offers a side viewing angle for the show. So just to kind of, if you don't know where the viewing areas were before, it had been previously Blue Bayou front and center. Your Riverbell area was off to the side in front of the Riverbell Terrace area, and then Hungry Bear is still on the same side, like we mentioned, off over by Haunted Mansion
to the left. Yeah,
still front row seating. It's just, are you front and center? Are you front center? Front left? Front right?
Yep. I'm so happy. So the morning that this came back, it wasn't even the morning this came back. It was the morning that they had cast member previews. One of the people we follow on Instagram, Philander, posted some videos from it, and it just made my morning. There was something that just made me so happy for almost the whole rest of that day. I was just in a great mood because I was so happy that that our amazing show that we love so much, Fantasmic, was back.
Yeah.
Was I disappointed that they didn't do something with the pirate scene? Yes, so were some other people, but I think it looks great.
That wasn't my disappointment. We talked about this.
What was your disappointment?
They added, I don't even remember when they added this. They added all these little, we'll call them Mickey noises.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
I was hoping that the Mickey noises were going to have gone away. So it'd be like during the song.
Whoa.
Yeah, during the song he'd kind of would like the wonderful Fantasmic song that just like stands on its own, no problem. They kind of added all these little like giggles and just like
Mickey reacting to his imagination.
Yes, that's a good way of explaining it.
Like wonder and excitement.
And I think it would have been okay. They just seem like they seem loud.
Yeah.
They seem to kind of, I notice them and it distracts me from the wonderful music. So I think that's why it's kind of like sometimes when animatronics make clicking noises, then that's kind of, then that distracts and disrupts from the show. So yeah. But I really want to look, it's probably out on YouTube if I search. I want to see, since we haven't seen it in person and don't know firsthand experience yet, I would love to see a side-by-side, maybe like a 2019 to a today's video of Fantasmic to see just how much the projections have changed and how much more crisp and vibrant it is.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will make or we can get something.
It probably exists, and if you know where it is,
let us know.
I
was just happy. I watched the little clips that Philander put online. Mm-hmm. I showered that morning listening to Fantasmic in the shower. On my way to my office, I listened to Fantasmic again in my car on full blast.
I was just so excited that Murphy is back. And
unfortunately, she didn't breathe fire.
She didn't, but she's back.
Yeah.
And
you were worried that she was going to have issues.
Yes, with Murphy's track rerecord, she gets a little grumpy and a little cranky, as we know.
I think she was happy to make her debut again.
Yes, I was just very excited that she came, that she was present.
Speaking of Fantasmic,
we'll work on the fire breathing, but I'm A+ for attendance.
I just want to say a funny story quick. So this weekend was Teresa's home reception for her wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And we were laughing because for some reason I really wanted to dance at Teresa's wedding.
Yes.
But like I don't usually want to dance ever, and especially not at weddings.
He's not a dancer.
But I was really and I didn't even drink.
He keeps asking James and I, what songs do I dance to? And we're like, you don't.
And James said, well, why don't you play Fantasmic?
Yeah.
I said, I don't think I have 24 minutes of recreating that, and I don't think Teresa's party guests would be entertained by that. So,
and I'm not sure if the DJ even had...
I had it on my phone. He could just plug it in or do something.
Yep, maybe.
It would have been great. We could have. I'll bet you Vern would have done it with me.
There was plenty of Disney music. There was played, though.
There was. I also did have a dumb moment where when we were setting up, Teresa was playing. She found a Pandora station that has a bunch of Disney music that is like instrumental, and I'm sitting there like an idiot, and I hear this. I'm like, this sounds like Disney music, and it's like, oh, because it is.
Because it is.
Well, June is here, which means the busy summer season has started at Disneyland. The Disneyland Forever fireworks show will now play nightly with fireworks 7 days a week. During the non-summer and holiday season, Mickey's Mixed Magic was played with projections only during the week, with fireworks on the weekends only.
You know, as much as I was knocking projections and, why are they only doing it is nice that they were... Instead of just not having fireworks, it was nice that they at least put on the projection show. Plus, Mickey's Mixed Magic it's catchy. I end up bopping along and dancing pretty much every time even if we're not watching it, we could just be walking through the area and it's just very catchy.
Well, even when we were there and we saw the spotlights from your hotel room, in my head it was boom, 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 boom. You know, like the music, and it is catchy. Mm-hmm. I'll give them that.
But yay for fireworks 7 days a week. That's very, very exciting. Well, last week, the most popular attraction in Disney California Adventure had an incident that has caused it to be closed ever since. Video online showed that one of the cars at Radiator Springs Racers on the outside racetrack portion of the attraction stopped and was smoking. Though the vehicle never caught fire, guests in the vehicle were buckled in with smoke coming from the rear. Cast members did get out to guests and exit them from the vehicle with no injuries. Disney has closed the attraction to investigate the incident and to ensure it won't happen again.
So I saw a video, and I don't blame these guests because it wasn't smoking like a ton, but obviously if you're in a vehicle and there's smoke and you're strapped in, it can be very terrifying.
Concern. Yeah.
So there was in this video, there was somebody walking along next to the track, and the people in the car were saying, "Get us out of here! Find someone to let us out." And they apparently they hadn't seen cast members that knew about it or something, because they said the cast members are coming. And I'm just glad nobody was injured. Mm-hmm. I hope they figure out whatever it was. Somebody online, I don't remember where I saw it, said that they kind of understood how the system works and where there's contact points and what could catch fire. And they said that it probably wasn't a mechanical thing. It was probably what it seemed like was something with the tire rubbing somewhere. Probably it got overheated, it was rubbing or something, and a lot of the smoke that was seen was probably just the rubber from the tire being warm, like when you peel out, that kind of thing. So I'm glad that they're trying to figure out what's going on. I hope it comes back up soon, because there's not a ton of attractions at California Adventure, and this being the most popular one made lines at other attractions a lot longer this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just, like you said, I'm just glad that everyone's safe.
Yes. In downtown Disney, food trucks have taken up residence by the old ESPN building to help feed hungry guests. These food trucks are expected to be there until at least July 4th. This is a great idea since the Earl of Sandwich is gone and there is a lack of affordable dining options, especially for larger families.
They've done this in the past, and I just think it's such a fun idea, especially, if I were local, and even if I wasn't going to have, a park day, this would be a reason to, some fun new reason to go check out downtown Disney, check out some new food, some new treats, all that kind of fun stuff. So I think this is such a fun idea, and they've got the space for it, especially now, and especially on that end of the park. We're talking about the end of the park close to the Star Wars Trading Post and the old ESPN building. Mm-hmm. But it's a nice variety. Teg's got the Mice Cheddar Club here we've got Nashville hot chicken, and then there's also Happy Ice, which is I think it's shaved ice, mm-hmm. which, come on, how delicious and refreshing in the California summer does that sound? I'm just looking at the picture and drooling and wanting to try one of these.
And one of your favorite things is in one of these pictures, the magic Disney tape lines.
The magic tape. I love the magic tape. Well, guests staying at the Paradise Pier Hotel can enjoy one of the hotel amenities again. The pool has finally reopened after a lengthy refurbishment. None of the stores or restaurants are open yet at the location, but it is great to have the pool open so guests don't have to walk over to the Disneyland Hotel to use their pool instead.
Yeah, so this seemed like it took a while. I feel like they've been working on this pool for quite a while. I have not seen any pictures of it since it reopened. I did see, I think last week or the week before, somebody had sent a picture in, I want to say maybe even a Fresh Baked, from one of the hotel rooms, because you can only see it from above because it is on like the second or third floor of the building in the back. So it's not easy to see just walking by like Disneyland Hotel or Grand Californian's pool. But I'm glad that they finally have it back because I feel like that's going to be a lot more convenient for those guests.
I'm happy they brought it back. I was slightly nervous that with the announcement of the retheme that perhaps this wasn't going to be open and accessible to guests until it had been themed to the new Pixar theme for the hotel. So I'm very happy that guests for the hotel don't have to wait until then.
Absolutely.
Especially, again, maybe they can sit in there with their happy ice and cool off.
That's true.
Psst, avast there. You come seeking questions and long-lost Disney information, eh? Sure, you come to the proper place, but keep a weather eye open, mates, and hold on tight, with both hands, if you please. There be squalls ahead, and James and Vern waiting for them what don't answer correctly.
Welcome to Trivia Land on this fine 237th episode. How we feeling about our trivia knowledge tonight?
We will find out.
We will find out.
You're always so hesitant, and I'm always so excited.
You just never know what you're getting into with Trivia Land.
Well, all right. I'll grant you that. Okay, well, we've got some wonderful listener-submitted questions for you tonight, and we know how kind the listeners always are to you. So, let's jump right into it. Your first question from listener Kayla B. In what year did churros first get introduced to Disneyland?
Oh, man.
That's another one that I feel like we've had before.
Well, I don't remember it, so...
Wasn't it like 70 something?
I was feeling the 70s. I was feeling the 70s for some reason. I'm going to say 72.
76. But I think you're right. But we'll find out.
We were probably both wrong. 72 and 76. Final answers.
1972 and 1976 for your final answers. All right. Your second question from listener Jill M. Where can you find a first aid kit with the following items? A battery with jumper cables, a jar of bolts and washers, and shop towels.
How specific are you asking?
Specific
I need specificity.
So not just Cars Land.
Yes.
A first aid kit.
If you just say Cars Land, I'm going to say wrong. I want where. Are you at Sarge's? Are you at Mater's? Are you
I
at
feel like
the
they
Cozy
really probably
Cone? Are you
should
at
have them everywhere. Let's be honest.
Where was Sarge like the medic? Like wasn't there like a medic person or something?
Well, I mean, he was like the army type, like the military type.
So I'm going to say
person.
Sarge's.
I don't think it'd be at Fillmore's.
No.
I could see it being at Mater's because I could see him having a lot of
Accidents.
booze.
Yeah.
I could also see it at Luigi's because Luigi's is like a business.
Yeah.
And they have like the showroom area. I'm going to go with Tow Mater's.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with what was Sarge's.
So that's Mater's and Sarge's?
Yep.
Final answers?
Final answers.
All right. And your third regular round question from listener Chris Y. What is the name of the suit of armor in Toad Hall?
There's a name of the...
Oh, man, it's probably something great, too. Dang.
There's a name of the suit of armor?
I'm sure there is. In fact, like now that we're talking about it, I feel like I remember seeing like a plaque.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
It's gotta be some sort of pun. Like it can't just be
right. I'm all out of puns.
I am like I can't think of anything clever enough that would work. So I'm gonna go with stumped.
I'm gonna go with like I don't know, Colonel Armor.
Colonel Armor?
Yeah, why not?
So that's one stumped and one Colonel Armor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Final answers?
Yes.
Yeah.
All
as good
right.
as it's gonna get.
And your fourth and final regular round question from listener Lynn B. Disney Imagineers give a nod to a famous fish in the Little Mermaid attraction.
I know.
Who is that fish, and who is the actor who portrayed it?
What? They give a nod to a fish?
Yep. They give a nod to a fish.
Do you have a hint for me?
The fish has, like, spectacles. You're not going to get it.
Is it the nerdy fish? There's like a nerdy fish from something that has spectacles. Is that from Bedknobs and Broomsticks? No?
No. I know.
I'm stumped, Vern. Teresa can give an answer now.
And when Lynn submitted the question, there was permission to give you a hint if you want it.
Yes, what's the hint?
The fish is not from a Disney film, but the actor was part of several Disney films.
I don't know the actor, but the fish's name is Mr. Limpet.
Okay, so I feel like I know... Like what? So okay. So I'm thinking of like actors. When did Mr. Limpet? It was not a Disney movie. Mm-mm. Okay. So I'm gonna say like who is the guy who was really well known and was in a lot of Disney movies? Like he was in. Well, he was in.
Well, I think it's the Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Who's the guy that like? Why am I thinking this isn't a Disney movie now? It's Mary Poppins, where they had the tea on the ceiling, and it's the guy who couldn't stop laughing.
I don't remember his name. I know.
But that's who I'm thinking maybe it is. So anyway, I don't know, Vern. Lynn? Is this Lynn from the sweep spot, Lynn?
It's Lynn B.
It might be Lynn.
That's all that I have.
I'm just going to show you what he looks like.
Sure.
We're not going to look to figure out who it was. That is Mr. Limpet. He's got spectacles.
Who? Whatever. What was the
I never saw the movie.
What studio was it from?
Oh, I've never seen. I feel like maybe this is what I need to do after we're done recording is try and see if I can find this movie to watch because I've never seen the movie. I know because I'm a Disney nerd. I know the Easter egg, but I don't know like the true significance of the Easter egg.
Was that the
Nor
fourth?
have I actually spotted him. Now I'm going to have to pay attention next time we're there.
Was that the fourth one, Vern?
That was the regular round question, yes.
Okay.
You still have a bonus.
And
good.
bring it on.
We need it.
Bring it on.
Well, so
we need it.
Did you answer that one?
Huh?
So your answer was...
My answer was Mr. Limpet or the Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Okay. And who voiced it?
I don't know.
I was saying that it was the guy who was in Mary Poppins who was like laughing. Like he was known in a lot of things, but I have no idea.
He's so fun.
What his name is. So.
Okay. So we'll put that down as stumped.
Yeah.
All right. And your bonus question tonight.
Incredible.
From listener Lisa K. In the Enchanted Tiki Room, what are the names of the 4 host parrots, and what countries do they represent?
Jose from Mexico.
Jose.
Pierre from France.
Pierre.
Fritz from Germany. Wake up, Jose. Oh.
Hang on.
Pierre, you rascal.
Yeah, you rescue.
Pardon, madame. That is my good friend Fritz. Ach, du lieber. I almost fell to my upper perch. Wait. Michael, mi amigo.
And where's Michael from?
I don't know where Michael's from.
Yeah, Michael's going to be one that stumps us. Is Michael U.S.?
UK, maybe.
We forgot to wake up the Glee Club. I'm trying to think of all the terrible accents that would maybe give us a clue.
Michael's like the hard one. The Tiki
Teresa,
Room.
I always lean over to you during Michael and I say this is the worst accent of them all because it doesn't even try to sound like it.
Oh, that's right, because I don't remember where... Is he supposed to be Irish?
Michael, yeah, maybe.
I'm going to say Irish. So Ireland.
Sure. I'll hop on your Tiki Room train for that one.
So those are your final answers?
Yeah.
Jose from Mexico, Pierre from France, Fritz from Germany, and Michael from Ireland? Final answers?
Yeah, we're just going to go with it.
Teresa doesn't look sure, but that's what we're going to go with.
Alrighty then. Listeners, how did you do listening at home? How do you feel about how Tag and Teresa did? Stick around until after the discussion topic, and we'll all find out.
All right, well, our guest this week is one that I'm sure a lot of our listeners will know of in some capacity.
Oh, yes.
And we have Dylan, who was actually the longest-running Genie in Aladdin, A Musical Spectaculars, working there for 10 years, 3 months, and somewhere between 5,500 and 6,000 shows. Welcome, Dylan.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
So, Dylan, we're going to start with some of our questions that we ask each of our guests. And so thank you again for taking some time to talk with us today.
I'm happy to do it. I hope I get the answers right.
I'm rooting for you, so I hope so too. So what is your Disney story? So basically, kind of what's your background with Disney?
I grew up in Southern California, and my parents would take us to Disneyland, probably about once a year. We'd have our annual Disneyland trip. Mm-hmm. So I grew up going to Disneyland and loving it and continue to do so, of course, as an adult. We'd always, Disneyland was always an option of a place to go that was always fun. And then the opportunity came for me to audition for a show at Disneyland, which I did, and I did not get.
Really?
Really. But as Disney does, they keep your information on file. So something came up that they actually thought I would be a fit for, called me up, invited me to an audition, and got hired from there.
Wow, that's really
so
exciting.
Interesting. So if you don't mind me asking, what was the first thing that you had auditioned for?
It was when California Adventure had first opened and they were doing the live version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay.
Oh.
I auditioned to be the host.
Interesting. Well,
that would have been a different
experience. That would have been a very different experience.
Yeah.
But, I'm a little biased, but I'm glad you got the second role.
Yeah.
I know it. I am too.
Are you okay? Good.
But actually, the Genie's not where I started.
Really?
Really. I kind of did some other stuff in the park first before I actually went over to the Genie. I actually got hired into special events. Mm-hmm. So I would do special events. And from there, they had an opening over at Aladdin's Oasis in Adventureland when that was in existence. And so I was the storyteller at Aladdin's Oasis for about a year and a half-ish, I think. That show went down for refurbishment. And I wasn't sure I was going to come back. And then they had auditions for Aladdin. And I went to that and hired into Aladdin. However, I'll say this too. That was my second audition for Aladdin. I actually auditioned for Aladdin one time before and did not get hired in.
Wow.
So it was my second audition into Aladdin where I got hired in.
So for those listening, perseverance is a good thing.
Exactly.
Just you got to keep going and you may end up getting what you want in the end. You just have to wait for the right time, I guess.
It is true.
So Aladdin's kind of been your thing with Disney because you did I
went from Oasis to the musical. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Genie is a storyteller in some way too. So that translates over pretty well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you go to the parks for the first time, like on a trip, because you don't live in California anymore. You're not working at the parks anymore. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Well, I am still a cast member, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
what, are you
I am.
On call just in case they decide to bring Aladdin back?
That would be amazing, and I would do it in a heartbeat.
We've got our fingers crossed over here.
I actually still will, on occasion, host special events at Disney. I was just out there in February. This was my 13th year hosting Minnie's Moonlit Madness, a private charity event that they put on.
Oh, that's
very
cool.
Very cool. So you're like a cast member on call. I like that.
Yeah.
That's neat. So
I feel very lucky that they've, been willing to keep me on the rolls, even though I'm halfway across the country.
Yeah.
So when you go to Disneyland now, if you're there for a non-official capacity, like to visit, let's say, and you go to Disneyland, where do you go when you first go in the park on your first day? Do you go, do you go left towards Adventureland, straight through to Fantasyland? Do you go towards Frontierland? Do you go towards Tomorrowland? Where do you go?
Tomorrowland. Every time. And I always have since I was a kid, because I love Space Mountain and I love Star Tours. Is a lot of fun. So if I can hit those two rides or at least get my fast passes for those rides to ride later in the day, those are amongst my top priorities.
I feel like that's a really smart way to attack the park because most people, Tag and myself included, I feel seem to go towards Adventureland. So you're going the road less traveled.
Seems that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do that if I go to Disneyland first. If whoever I'm with wants to go to California Adventure first, we pretty much try to hit our fast passes for Radiator Springs first.
Yes. You kind of have to.
And then once you do that, you go over to Soarin' Around the World.
Now, this is totally random.
Sure.
Totally random. But speaking of Radiator Springs, did you ever meet the guy that's been on it like 10,000 times or whatever?
The guy that's been on it 10,000 times?
Yeah, there's a gentleman who like he goes and he has like the Guinness World Record for the amount of times riding Radiator Springs Racers. Wow. And every time he goes, he has like a card and he writes how many times, he updates it or whatever and takes pictures with the cast members. And they actually just had on YouTube, if you go to the Oh My Disney channel, they had a kind of a documentary series called Disney People, and he was one of the people, and they kind of told the story of how I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had something happen in his life, and he decided that this was, got a motivation to get out of the house and get out and meet people and talk to people and do something, and he just loved the attraction, and so he's been on it over 10,000 times.
Wow. No, I haven't met him. I met there's a gentleman who I think holds the record for the number of consecutive days visiting the park.
Ooh.
And I met him, and then he did something too where, and I think it was the same person who was out in Orlando and did Orlando in the morning, just went into the park, just so he could say he was in the park, and then left, got on a plane, flew out to California, drove straight to Disneyland, and then went into Disneyland so we could do both parks in one day.
Yeah, wow. I think I remember seeing something about that too. There's some people, if you look around the internet, there's some crazy fans out there.
Dedication. That's what that is.
Well, even better, there was somebody I saw online, and they made what you're saying, Dylan, is they made it a goal that they didn't want to just walk in the gates. What they did was they went to all 4 theme parks at Disney World and went on one attraction, and then flew across to Disneyland and went on one attraction in each California Disneyland.
Yeah, so they did an attraction per 6 parks.
Yeah.
That is timing, planning, and luck. I mean,
yeah.
You risk, a line or a ride breaking down or
a delay on a flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure you travel enough. You know how flights and all that can get delayed. So, what is your favorite attraction at Disney?
I've got to pick a top one. I can give you some of my favorites.
That works.
That's fine.
Yeah, obviously, I said when I go to Disneyland, I would go to Space Mountain first. The Space Mountain Star Tours, of course, in Tomorrowland. Then I would honestly have to go Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
Teresa loves Haunted Mansion. I like Haunted Mansion too, but Teresa's like a next level.
Yes, I love it.
If you're gonna say like lifelong favorite attraction, I would have to say Haunted Mansion. Ever since I was a little kid, because there was a time when I was like too scared to go on roller coasters, so I wouldn't go on Thunder Mountain or Space Mountain, but Haunted Mansion every time. And then when they do the redress for it for Nightmare, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yes.
It is amazing.
It's incredible to me that it's not just, like, let's put some lights. I mean, it's Disney. You don't just sprinkle little lights and call it good. Yeah. The fact that there's specific animatronics that are dedicated just for the holiday version is just unreal.
It's amazing.
So glad they do it. The only thing I'm sad about is it seems like it could go a little less, because I feel like it cuts into the end of summer. The last couple weeks of August, it goes down for the changeover, and I feel like, that's what's going to make us sad. We're going for D23 in August, and I think it's going to be closed.
Yes, we're going to be there when it's in transition period.
Yeah,
but
so
it's very popular both ways, so I get it.
Yeah. It's just, I wish they could snap their fingers and it would change overnight.
It's like a 2-week makeover it takes.
Yeah.
Well, what's amazing is when they take it all down, it's like quicker than when they put it up. But it's like, I don't know. Even in a couple weeks, the amount of change that goes through that is just amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So, being with Aladdin: A Musical Spectacular, we actually haven't talked. I don't think we've actually talked about this show a terrible amount on this show.
Just how much we loved it and how much we miss it.
Yeah, we've talked about that. But I think that a lot of people really had a soft spot kind of in their heart for the show. I know I did. It was definitely something that was on my must-do every time I went to California Adventure. And and I tried to see it, unlike most shows, I tried to see it at least twice every visit I had, because it was always different. One of the cool aspects of the show was that, well, your role as the genie, you could change it. There was jokes and stuff that were different each time. So did it kind of start that way? Like, is that, I know you didn't start with the show, but I'm sure you know some of the history of the show. Is that kind of how Disney envisioned it, was so it could be constantly changing?
From what I understand, that was, the idea is that they wanted to be able to, update it and whatever, and keep it fresh, because you needed those pop culture references just to kind of like do homage to the way, Robin played it in the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, from what I understand, and so I don't know this for sure, but from what I understand, it was a bit more structured at the beginning.
Okay.
And it got to be a little bit looser as the show went on. They gave us a bit more room to play in different places and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Well, it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like the Jungle Cruise, like every time you go out on a Jungle Cruise, you get some different jokes. And my understanding is there's a book that has a bunch of the jokes that they can do. But I'm sure there are skippers that, off the cuff sometimes.
Yeah, there's no Genie joke book.
I feel like it would go out of date so quick.
And you know what? Now that you mention it, I feel like there should have been. Like, we should have just logged all the different jokes we did and when.
That would be so interesting. It'd be a very large
Now I'm
book.
kicking myself for not thinking of that 10 years
well,
ago.
YouTube, I'm sure there's a couple of different shows,
Oh, sure.
at least on YouTube, that you can go back.
Tons of videos. But I don't want to be the one to sit there. I don't want to be the one to sit there and compile them. So if
I don't
so
blame
inclined,
I don't blame you at all.
I'll be happy to write the foreword or something like that.
There you go. We actually just watched the final performance on YouTube a couple weeks ago because we were missing the show so much. So with the kind of openness that you had with the show, off the top of your head, because when I was watching, I was actually trying to figure out, but how many times were you allowed to kind of do your own thing and just kind of go with the flow and then kind of go back into the traditional Aladdin story?
It's not like I can give you a definitive number of times that we can do it. There are places in the show where it'll either lend itself, to the jokes. Of course, like the Genie's entrance, you can throw stuff in there. But really, kind of like the guiding principle was, as long as it didn't interfere with the storytelling or character.
Okay. So you could do it the whole show, or you could only do it like 3 times if you...
Well, no, I mean, again, there wasn't like really a number. So, I mean, like there's certain scenes like when, say when like Aladdin, says, "I'm sorry, Genie, I can't give you, your final wish," or whatever. A joke will find its way in there eventually, but I mean, like scenes like that kind of like have to play their moment. That's a significant part of the show. It's a significant moment for each of those characters. It's you never wanted to detract from the actual storytelling for the sake of a joke.
Gotcha.
Right. The story comes first.
Exactly.
I'm just impressed with your actors that you worked with. I don't know how they kept straight faces.
Oh, yes.
They didn't always. They honestly did not always do it.
Well, that'd be so hard because since it was constantly changing, I'm sure you weren't able to always like prep them and say, so this is what I'm going to say. Don't react on stage.
Oh, that never happened. We never. It was always pretty much. I mean, you get into a pattern where like you do the show enough, and they know like where you're probably going to put in a joke or something like that. But if the joke changes up or something, or if just something happens and you run with it, that's not something that they're prepared for. Sometimes it's not even something you're prepared for.
So obviously you have like a history and a background with comedy. So how long were you doing comedy before you started with Disney?
Well, let's see. I've been an actor pretty much my entire life. I grew up doing it and doing, of course, the shows at school. And then I was doing, all the community theater. And then I started branching out and doing a little bit more professional theater. I started doing comedy. I was like doing actual stand-up comedy when I was 18 and dabbled in it for a while through college. Left the scene for a while, came back, started doing comedy for a couple of years and was playing around LA. And then my wife got pregnant. And I did not want to be on the road with a new baby at home. So I left the comedy scene for a while. And it was really only a couple of years, about 3. It was shortly after our second child was born that I actually started working at Disney. Yeah, I was out of the scene for a little while. I dabble back in it a little bit, and I'm actually back in it again now. So it's something I keep going back to. So I've been in and out of it for since I was 18. I'm not going to tell you. How's that?
A couple of years. Got it. A couple of years.
I've been doing it for a couple
18
years.
plus 10. So there
I mean, you were trapped in the lamp for 10,000 years. So
10,000 years. So any number I give you now will seem, tiny.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I cannot imagine. I've seen a lot of comedians on TV and everything, and I've been to a couple comedy shows, and people think being a comedian is easy, but it's definitely not, because
no, it's not.
You could have the same joke totally land with one audience and bomb with another audience.
Well, that was totally true as the Genie as well.
I just remember people were always laughing in there. I mean, there were times, I guess, that were not as good, but I felt like the stuff that hit the best was definitely the contemporary stuff, the stuff that had to do with like current times. Do you have a moment that kind of stands out above all the others of your time on the show?
Just one? No. Again, I mean, with a little over 10 years on that stage, I mean, there's so many moments. I remember early on, because you'd mentioned, how hard was it for some of the actors to keep a straight face. This was within my first couple of years doing the show. We were sitting backstage between shows, probably at lunch, I think, and we were watching the 40-Year-Old Virgin in the break room.
That's not something you'd hear at a Disney park.
Right. And it was that back and forth between Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, the "you know how I know you're gay" kind of thing. That whole exchange. And a lot of that was improvised. And I thought, oh, that would be so funny if I could just go up there and, like, I was turned to the guy who was playing Jafar. If I could go up there, but "you know how I know you're evil" kind of thing. And he just gave me this look. It wasn't like I dare you. It was just like, it was like I challenge you. Like, let's see what you do. I'm like, oh man, well now I've got it. So I can't even remember a lot of the jokes I came up with, but I literally did it that day. He'd like challenged me. So I went back to my, dressing station and I sat there and started like writing things and whatever. And so we went up on stage for the next show. And there's that moment where, we have that time between Genie and Jafar when, I'm granting his wishes. And we have that, couple minutes where we riff with him. I did like my couple standards. You pretty much always started with, "Poof, you're the Sultan. And if your last name were Pepper Shaker, you'd be Sultan Pepper Shaker."
Thank you for saying that. I say that joke all the time and nobody thinks it's funny, but I thought it was hilarious in that show. But Teresa thinks I'm nuts. Producer James thinks I'm nuts because I use that joke because that's the one I always remember. And they're like, that is stupid.
It's a terribly stupid joke. It's a horribly stupid joke, but it's funny.
Yeah.
But it's in the way you sell it too. So, I mean, that was kind of like the standard. So I kind of like, I'm giving him that one. And I gave him like another one that I always did at the time. I can't remember what that was. So I did like the first two were things he was always expecting. And I don't remember how I did it. I wish it was on YouTube or something somewhere that I could find. But I basically turned and said, "Man, you are evil. You know how I know you're evil?" And he turned and looked at me like, "You are not going to do this right now." And I just started hitting him with one after another until and he was starting to, you could see him starting to break. And of course the audience was loving that. And that energy's kind of like fed off each other. And I hit him with one. And I don't know why this one stands. I don't know if this is the one that did it, but this one stands out. I said, "You know how I know you're evil? You think Ursula from The Little Mermaid is hot." And I don't know if that was the one that did it, but he doubled over and was holding on to that big snake staff of his, just shaking laughing.
Wow.
So things like that were fun. You're just asking me moments that stick out. I'm like, that's my earliest memory of something just like really sticking out.
I wish I would have been there for that because that sounds amazing.
And you mentioned you were just watching the last show on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, that whole show. I mean, especially, and again, in that moment, that riff, moment with Jafar was all stuff I'd never done before. That was all for the last show.
It was great.
It was all completely new. Doing the call outs to all the different Jafars, Aladdins, and Genies was something.
Neat. That was really
I was impressed that, like, I mean, you obviously worked with these people, but like the fact that you could go up there and just recall all of them on stage one after another, I was so impressed. I was like, wow, that's a class act to get up there and call out these people. And for me, like, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know the names of any of the actors in the show, but like, I knew what you were doing. And so it was.
And there were some like
cool
super fans who did. They knew a lot of those names.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you could tell the audience went wild.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and that didn't come out of nowhere. But I honestly, I wrote that whole thing 3 days before closing.
Wow.
Because we went down for a refurbishment once. And the show was down for about 2 months. And I did the last show before the refurbishment. And I did like this whole big thing there in the Jafar scene, and everybody thought it was great. And it's like, okay, well, what's Dylan going to do this time? It's like, well, I can't do the same thing. And it was killing me. And it was seriously like 3 days before the last performance, and I had the idea of what to do. I wrote all the whole, you're a Disney villain thing, and came up with the idea of, just giving that nod to the people who've played the roles over the years. And I reached out to the cast, and people have just like, okay, just list everybody who's ever played the role. I went to stage management, everything like that, until I got a list of names. And my wife will tell you, anytime we drove anywhere, I'm sitting there reciting the list of names.
Oh, geez.
Just so I could do it. That performance. So there's a good chunk in the show where I'm not on stage, where Aladdin and Jasmine have, they sing Whole New World together. Well, Jasmine sings her To Be Free song, and then Aladdin and Jasmine have Whole New World. So I have like a bit of a breather during that time as the genie, and I'm getting my makeup touched up and that sort of thing. So I was going to take that moment to go over that whole bit just one more time in my head. Well, if you watch that final performance, you'll notice in my opening scene, when I come out of the lamp, whenever my mic is having problems, and you hear it cut out at one point. And then my other mic cuts out because we're wearing two, and my spare started to go. And somehow they managed to get my spare working until that moment when I was off stage. So instead of being able to go over all those names and everything and, review that whole thing in my head just one more time, I mean, I had to change out of my costume, because that's a full bodysuit thing. I had to change out of that. They had to swap out the microphones. They had to do this whole thing. And by the time they got me zipped back in, it was time for me to walk back out on stage again. I'm like, I just made it.
Well, and if you think about that, I mean, that kind of threw your game off, probably with the mics not working, and you're thinking about trying to get back out there in time. So you're probably not even thinking about the names at all.
Exactly. And I actually am glad it worked out that way, because it forced me in that moment to be really present in that moment and not rely on, okay, I just rehearsed this, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I didn't get a chance to do it. So I got to really be here and think about what I'm doing. So in that respect, I actually think that worked out to my benefit.
After that, did you hear from any of those former actors on the show?
I did. I got Facebook messages. People found my phone number and called me and thanked me and a couple of them are people who were in the show and left before I even showed up in the show. And they were just like, man, thank you so much for giving me that nod. How awesome. Blah, blah, blah. So that was really neat. Just have people call up and just say what a nice little tribute that was.
I thought it was great. I mean, it's very touching, especially for something like we've said a couple times already, something that was so close to the audience's heart. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's going to be pretty close to the actor's heart as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that show was unique in that respect, and not just for me. A lot of most, if not all, I think the people who've been involved in that show will tell you the same thing. That it doesn't matter how little or how long you spent in that show. We were definitely a family. It was very much a family show. I mean, it was very. I mean, you get close to lots of people you do shows with, but there's something, I don't know, extra special about that show. And I honestly can't say what it was, but it
was the genie's magic, and not you. I'm just saying the magic of the show.
The magic of the genie.
It was Disney magic.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So now I'm curious, now that I know that you were wearing a full bodysuit for your performances, how long did it take for you to get into makeup for these performances?
The makeup process took about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to get into the makeup, and about 20 to 30 minutes to have it removed.
What did that entail, I guess? Because I could never tell, being in the audience, kind of, what was part of a costume that you wose, what was actually painted on you.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, and I don't want to spoil it. Show's over, I can tell you.
So the blue wasn't your real skin color?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in makeup now. Actually, my wife likes to joke that I've worn more makeup in the time I was doing that show than she will have ever worn in her entire life.
I believe it.
I believe it.
And it's probably true. So it was a bodysuit with a fat suit that, went all the way, up to my neck, and, with the long sleeves, and we had gloves. So the makeup was a bald piece that, went down the back of my neck, from my forehead down to the back of my neck. A nose and forehead piece that went over that. and stopped around the top of my head. There was a chin piece and the pointy ears, of course. And then all of that got painted and shaded and highlighted and glued. And
wow.
And of course, we didn't do it ourselves. We had makeup artists who did it for us. They weren't like just Disney makeup artists, not to disparage anybody at Disney, because man, if you can see what the people in the wig department and makeup department do on a daily basis, it's incredible. But they brought these guys in as outside contractors who all work on other things. One of the guys, I'm still really good friends with him. His name is RJ, and he is currently, and was at the time too, he's one of the makeup artists on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He specifically went and saw Captain Marvel just to see his name in the end credits because he worked on Captain Marvel. And he would send me pictures of him spray painting the Kree blue and just going, I'm having flashbacks.
Wow, that's incredible. So it was very easy for you to go enjoy the parks out of makeup and have nobody coming up to you knowing who you were then.
Was it very easy? It was pretty easy. Most people don't know who I am out of makeup. But with social media and everything, people find me.
True. That's true.
This actually, just like I said, I was out there in February. I hosted that event in February, but the event was at night. And so I went to go play in the park during the day, and I took my daughter with me. We weren't even out of the Mickey and Friends parking lot when somebody yelled, Genie!
Really?
Yeah, turn around.
Wow.
And there was this woman, she was there with her 2 kids and her husband and their annual pass holders, and they recognized me because they follow me on Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
So we sit there, we talked, we took some pictures, we walked to the park together. We even ran into each other again later on the day. They were great.
Well, it's one of those things like, so this, okay, so I've told this story on the show before, but this is kind of an interesting thing. So I feel like even if I saw you, now we've talked, right? And like, I follow you on Instagram. I've been following you since I found out who you were and where I could follow you. And I went back and looked at a lot of your old posts because you had a lot of stuff in there from the Aladdin time, from when you were working on Aladdin and since. Sure. And in fact, I think even far back, I know I'm crazy, but I think even far back, you had some pictures that you shared from when you worked in Aladdin's Oasis as well.
Yep. I think there are probably a few on there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like if I thought I saw somebody famous, I would trick myself to say that's probably not them. And, and that's how I was. So the story I had was we were in the park. My friend Beth and I were in the park, and this is 2002, 2003. We were walking down Main Street. She started slapping me. And I was like, what? And she was like really excited about something. And she said, come with me. And we went into the Carnation Cafe. Mm-hmm. And she said, look over there. It's Elijah Wood. I said, that's not Elijah Wood. She said, it's Elijah Wood. I said, no, it's not. So we patiently waited. He got his sandwich or whatever, and he came to the end of the thing. And I said, excuse me. And he stopped. And I said, my friend and I want to know, are you Elijah Wood? And he looked around, and then he looked back at me, and he goes, I am. And I should have taken a picture with him, and everybody thinks I'm nuts for not taking a picture with him. But we had this stupid monkey we were taking pictures with. And I said, will you take a picture with our monkey? And he said, yes. And he threw his stuff down. He took a picture with the monkey. Of course, when I started telling the story, when I got home from that trip, everybody's like, why didn't you get a picture with him? I'm like, I don't know.
That would have made sense.
Because I was shocked that he was even there. I wasn't prepared for this. Yeah. And I didn't even think it was him when I went up to ask him. Anyway, it's just one of those
never
weird.
Know. It's all that Disney magic. You don't know what's real and what's not real.
That's true. That's true. Did you ever challenge yourself? I mean, you kind of said this, but other times, other than with Jafar, did you ever challenge yourself to try to make the cast break character and kind of laugh? Was that always kind of like something that you kind of aimed to do?
No, not always. There was that moment with Jafar because he pretty much challenged me to do it. And there were times where, just like you feel like you can get somebody, and it's really tempting when the shark smells blood in the water, you want to go for it.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And I'll admit, I went through a time too. It's just like, yeah, I want to get the cast, or I want to make them laugh, I want to make them break. But after a while, it was just like, if they break, they break. Let it happen organically. I'd rather tell a good joke. I'd rather serve the show and serve the story. So I never challenged myself to make them break. I would just challenge myself to tell a better joke. If they broke, they broke. But I just wanted to tell the best jokes or tell the best story that I could. And if it hit like that, fantastic.
Yeah, because I don't know. When I watch skits, right? So like earlier this afternoon, I was watching a little bit of SNL from this last week. And one of the things I find most humorous in those type of situations is when the cast does break and when they do start to laugh, because there's just something about that that's just oh goodness, like, it just adds like a different level to it. And it's always fun to see comedians who are really good at kind of doing the straight face kind of thing, and actors, lose it. And, they show kind of that humanity to them that right. I don't know. I just find it, I always laugh more.
I enjoy it too. I mean, I love Stefan sketches when they would make Bill hit or break by giving him stuff to read on the cue cards that he didn't rehearse and things like that. I would love those. Those are some of my favorites. And I love doing it in the show. But I always found it was always better if it came organically than if I tried. Because then there's a thing too. If you're trying to do it, the other actor can see that you're trying to do it, and then their guard goes up. It's a lot funnier and a lot more real, and the audience connects with it more when it just kind of hits them unexpectedly.
So what were some of the best parts about working that show, and what were maybe some of the worst parts about being the Genie?
The cold glue for the makeup was one of the worst parts.
Was it hard to move your face with that many different pieces attached to your
not really.
face?
It was very malleable. No, it wasn't that bad. The chin was kind of the bane of my existence because that would pop off a lot. But no, otherwise, I always said I did the show for free. They paid me to do the makeup and everything.
There you go.
Let's see, best parts of it. I mean, one, just getting to play at Disneyland. Are you kidding? One, the fact that you get to be there, and two, just all the perks of being at Disneyland. For me specifically, the fact that I got to do a lot of my own jokes and play that way, and I got to sing and dance live and perform for an audience that way, and with like I said, with a family of people that I absolutely love, and I got to play with my friends every day.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it really felt like work to you.
There were some days when it did. You can't laugh after a while. You'll get into a rut or a routine or something where it's just like, oh my God, I need a break. Or if you're just not feeling well, whatever. There's some days where it's work, but ultimately when it comes down to it, you're getting paid to play. So play. Just enjoy the fact that you get to play.
So what was your schedule like? Because obviously there was multiple shows per day. That would be a lot of time if you were the Genie every single show, every single day. So did you have, specific days off a week, or did that rotate, or how did you do that?
Contracts were renewed every year. As a full-time, I was the only Genie who was full-time the whole time I was there. And full-time meant 4 days a week. And there were 4 shows in a day, and we'd split the day 2 and 2. So on some days I'd be the first Genie, some days I'd be the second Genie. There was a time early on where early in the, during the middle of the week, I remember working a Wednesday was part of my schedule. And it was still 4 shows, but I was the only Genie, so I do all 4 on that Wednesday. Or there'd be days where just somebody was sick or somebody got hurt or whatever. And, well, you did the first 2. Guess what? You're doing the last 2 also. It happens that you do all 4. I mean, some of the people in the ensemble, that was their day. Most of them would get to do 3 shows and be swung out for 1. But some of them would do 4 shows in a day. They do 4 shows a day way more than I would. And some of them are dancing and exerting themselves a lot more than I was. So, I mean, I'd complain, but I really wouldn't do it that much because I know some people had it so much harder than I did. So
I'm just always amazed watching any of the performances, whether it's the parades or the live shows at a Disney park, and how these people are just, I mean, I would just be exhausted.
The parades.
They have a smile on their face, and they're just, I mean, they're working hard.
Yeah, they're working hard.
They look awesome doing it.
I just think of the parades, especially in Florida where it's humid and 90. Yeah. And they're going through the whole parade route, and they have to look just as happy and chipper and dancing as they do when they step off as when they're done.
Yep.
So
kudos to them. I can do it.
It's a hard job, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate it as much as they should, I would say.
So I have a random question for you. So at the end of the show, the Genie, leaves. I think you usually went to Disneyland when you were free.
Yes.
And somebody would be riding the magic carpet. Did you ever get to ride the magic carpet?
I never once got to ride the magic
carpet. Oh. I don't know. I think I'd be a little afraid.
I'd be afraid.
To be perfectly honest, I was I had some trepidation about writing it. I wanted to write it, but there's a part of me that was nervous about it. But also the opportunity for me to do it never really came up. I suppose I could have pursued it more. Instead, strap me into the gantry and let me ride it around once. I'm sure they would have found a time to let me do it. But yeah, I never did it.
I guess I never thought about this, but the entire cast, because it's a musical heavy kind of show. Mm-hmm. You guys all sung your own lines, like there was no lip syncing or anything?
No, it was all live.
That's pretty amazing, like having to do that all the time. I mean, that could be pretty... I mean, Broadway people do it too, but it's just at a Disney park, you don't think like, oh, wow. But, I mean, it was Broadway caliber. Yeah, well, I mean, I actually... So I watched the last show of Aladdin Musical Spectacular on YouTube, and then I found some clips of the Broadway show, and the Broadway show's different. For some reason, I wanted it to be the same, and it was different. They have some kind of... I mean, they have some Genie moments, too, it seems like. I didn't get a full show, so I don't know the extent of it. But it did... I don't know. One of my favorite scenes in Aladdin Musical Spectacular is the Friend Like Me scene, because it feels very Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I saw the Friend Like Me scene that they did for, like, Good Morning America or something, and I was like, I kind of like the California Adventure one better, because I love that Vegas-y quality to it. And, man, you moved around a lot in that one. I'll tell you that.
I will. Well, I'll tell you this. When I hired into the show, between rehearsals and then, jumping in and doing 4 days a week of that show, in the first 6 months of that show, I lost about 20 pounds.
Who needs the South Beach diet?
Yeah,
right?
Just go work
the Genie.
Yeah, just go be the Genie.
Just put on a fat pad and run up and down those stairs.
Yeah. So, which brings up another point, which I had here written down. So, how many at one time, like, let's say, at one time, how many Genies were in the cast? And kind of a follow-up to that is, like, how big was the cast at any given time?
Wow. Well, let's see. If you're talking about, like, how many Genies there were, like say, on the roster, I think the most there ever were at one time was 9.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. Well, because you needed to have enough Genies to fill up, all the shows for the week. That's 28 shows a week, if my math is right. 4 shows, 4 times 7. Yeah. And then you needed to have your subs in case something happened. And a lot of times, too, I was the Genie, and that's all I did in the show. Some of the guys who played the Genie, there was one guy in the show. He was like the everyman. Scott Arroyo played the Genie, Jafar, the Sultan, the head guard, Iago. He pretty much every role that could have been had. I think he pretty much did. You need to have a few to be able to fill in all the spots.
That would be interesting, to be Genie one day and then Jafar the next. That's a very big two opposite ends of the spectrum.
You have to stick out, so you have that
times where that happened in the same day.
Really?
Yep.
Well, what you do is you have some sick outs, right? So then you have Jafar going, Genie, I wish for you to make me the Sultan. And then he moves over. Poof, I make you the Sultan. And then he moves over.
You like that half face thing where he just turns one side.
Yeah, there you go.
The person who played Iago, did they also have kind of a little bit of riffing ability like the Genie did?
Not the same way. They had like a little bit of like flexibility, but they never got to like make up their own jokes or anything like that.
So when they announced that they were not going to be continuing Aladdin, did the cast of Aladdin, did anybody have the option to then maybe transfer over to the Frozen show?
Several, it wasn't so much a transfer. They still had to audition. They made it open to us. They did I don't want to say a private audition. They did an in-house audition. Before they opened it up to people outside of Disney, they opened it up to people within the park, and especially from the cast of Aladdin themselves, to audition for the show and see where they could find a fit. And there are still currently several people who were in the Aladdin show are in the Frozen show.
I feel like there's going to be some listeners that want to know this too. There was a member of the cast, and I thought she was amazing, by the way. She was just kind of like an ensemble character, but she was in a wheelchair. That was so awesome. Like,
oh yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about her? Because I remember seeing her in the show quite a few times, and I remember thinking it was so cool that that she could be part of the cast, mm-hmm. and was just another person of the show, and
yep.
That's such a cool opportunity.
It was a great opportunity. She was with the show, I think, from the beginning. Her name is Jennifer Kumiyama, and she is by far one of the nicest, sweetest people you would ever hope to meet. Yeah, she is fantastic, and she's in the show. She was in the show, not just it's like, oh well, she's in a wheelchair. Let's have diversity. That girl can sing. Oh man, does she have a voice? Yeah.
With anything live action like this, there are always oops moments where things don't exactly go according to plan.
No, never.
Yeah.
Can you share with us a couple times where things didn't quite go to plan that people might find amusing or interesting?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I know you can find a bunch of them. There's one that comes to mind, and I've seen this clip on YouTube too, that happened to me, where it's in that scene with Genie and Jafar, where I'm granting him his wishes. The person on the soundboard jumped a cue and jumped a sound effect. Well, a lot of the mics were programmed into the board that, so if, say, the sound designer would forget to bring a performer's microphone down when they weren't going to be speaking, they would automatically come down. It jumped a cue. So all of like Aladdin's lines, Jasmine's lines, and everything, it's like, let us go. And, what's going on? And we got bigger problems than the palace guards. All those lines were just gone. You could hear them saying them, but they just weren't mic'd because the way it was programmed, those mics were out. The only mics left on were mine and Jafar's. And we had to do this whole, and there was still like interaction with these other characters where none of their mics were on. And so I had to run with it and get through it until we could get caught up to where we were. And then everything was, back on track. Things like that would happen all the time. People would drop things. People would miss a cue. People would just randomly go up on a line and just forget where they were. One of my favorites, and I tell this story a lot because it's just one of the most amusing stories to me, of somebody forgetting a line, and I wasn't in the scene, and I don't mean to call the actor out or anything like that, but he just completely went up. Oh, and this just reminded me of another quick one too. So it was right after Friend Like Me, and that big old curtain comes down. So I am pretty much behind that curtain, changing into that big white outfit that I have for the Prince Ali number.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm bursting out. And in front of the proscenium is, Jasmine confronting Jafar about, him putting Aladdin in prison and all that sort of thing. Or sentencing him to death because he was only trying to help. So Jafar's first line when he enters the stage is, "I'm sorry, princess, I know whatever you had about that street rat, but rules are rules." And then the scene goes on and Sultan comes out. Well, for some reason, that Jafar could only remember that first line. So every time he turned to Jasmine, he would just keep saying, "I'm sorry, princess." Well, can't you change the law? Can't the law be changed? Just trying to feed it to him. And he couldn't. It was killing him. And he's just like, to the point where he wasn't saying, "I'm sorry, princess," as Jafar. He was saying to the actress, "I'm so sorry. I can't. I'm sorry, princess." And I'm backstage thinking, he's having a stroke. Something's going on.
Oh, God.
Every line of his was, "I'm sorry, princess. I'm sorry, princess. I'm sorry, princess." And no matter how much they tried to feed him the line, he just couldn't get it. There was another time, there's the moment where Jafar and Iago in that window, they realized, oh, that street rat must have found the lamp. He must have been trapped inside the Cave of Wonders. Well, we'll have to do a little trapping of our own. That little moment. For some reason, I don't remember what happened, but the Jafar missed that cue or couldn't, get up to the window or whatever. So it was Iago out there. And the actor playing, doing the puppet realized Jafar wasn't there. And just went, "Oh, the street rat must have found the lamp. Wait till Jafar hears about this." "Jafar, get up here. You're not going to believe it." And just basically kind of did the scene himself and just gave up and went away. And we can...
Thankfully, it sounds like all of these oopses minus the mic, they were kind of able to still... Most of the audience may not have noticed that it didn't go exactly how it was supposed to go.
But we had such a great professional group that people just ran with it. And it was also too, it's like, look, this is one show out of, 4 today, many this week, and of the thousands that we're going to do it, move on.
Yeah. You gotta, there's a famous line in show business, the show must go on. You just gotta try to get through it.
Show must go on until it gets to the point where it's so broken you can't. And that happened too. We'd have technical difficulties that would stop the show. And if they could fix them, we'd pick up where we left off. Or sometimes there'd be a technical difficulty that would stop the show, and we'd have to cancel.
Oh, no. Wow.
Was there something that was common that would break that would cause a cancellation?
Not always. The one that comes to mind the most, I think, that caused the most problems was the on-stage carpet. And I don't mean, the actress. The one that Aladdin and Jasmine, they're singing Whole New World, and it's kind of like cruising them around the foggy stage and whatever. Because that's a whole big mechanical arm piece that comes up from beneath the stage and everything like that. And sometimes, it wouldn't work properly, or the little opening wouldn't close all the way. So there'd be this big hole in the stage, and the stage is covered with fog. So, you can't send dancers out. So from my recollection, that would be the one thing that would stop the show the most. It didn't happen all that often, but when it did, that would pretty much be the one that would do it.
I have to imagine it must be a surreal experience, because I'm sure you saw the animated movie Aladdin before you worked on it. And then, not knowing when you first saw it that like one day I'm going to be part of this show and be such an iconic part of the show. I mean, that must be a surreal experience.
It is, to think that that's, part of my life, and that I actually kind of have that, spot in Disney history. Because I remember when the movie came out, I loved it so much. I went and saw it again, like the following week. I took my mom to go see it. I was like, you have to see this movie. I got the soundtrack. I would sing along. I would think just like, how much fun would it have been to have done this? And then to get the opportunity to actually do it, I mean, literally a dream come true.
Aladdin, a Musical Spectacular is done, unfortunately. If people were interested in seeing you now, where can people kind of follow you? Where can people see you work your craft?
Well, they can always find me on Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram than I am on Facebook. So I'm on Instagram at It's Dylan White, ITS Dylan White, DYLANWHITE. So you can always follow me on Instagram. So like I said, I'm more active there than anywhere else. And of course, on my website, DylanWhite.com. I'm working on getting more into the Dallas comedy scene out here. I was just in California at the end of March and played a comedy club out there. So I'm hoping to be able to do a lot more of that. So
even though you do still technically, you do still work for Disney, you are still a cast member. If you were to go back and work at the park, is there something, what would your dream job be at the park, or are you doing it now?
I think my dream job at the park, I mean, if I couldn't be performing at the park anymore, I would want to be more on the behind the scenes creative end of things, helping develop shows or write shows or something like that.
That's definitely one we haven't had yet. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dylan, for making the time to talk to us about your iconic role in the parks. And,
my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Learned a lot of cool things, and hopefully our listeners also enjoy it. So, well, have a great evening.
You too. Thanks so much.
It's okay. I'll be the only weekly tier without an answer. Make sure you send your questions to Producer James or Producer Vern at trivia@DLWeekly.net.
Welcome back to Trivia Land, where we're going to find out how Tag and Teresa, and you the listeners at home, did tonight. How do you feel how you did tonight, Tag and Teresa?
Not great. Not great.
I'm confident about Mr. Limpet.
But you didn't have the voice actor.
But not the voice actor. That was like an extra something, so.
Well, I'm looking at your scorecard that we keep here, and I do see a correct answer.
A
correct answer.
Jose is our correct
At least
answer.
we have one correct answer.
So let's find out what it was. Your first listener submitted question tonight from listener Kayla B. In what year did churros first get introduced to Disneyland? You said 1972 and 1976. The correct answer I was looking for, 1985.
Wow.
Ed Wynn was the person I was thinking of, by
that's
the way.
fun. Like Ed Wynn. It could be one name. Ed
Yeah.
Wynn. 1980 when? I'm sorry.
85.
My
Teresa,
second-
I'm very upset you wouldn't remember that, having not been born yet.
See, I would have thought,
That's why.
I should have said 85, because I always am surprised at how late they came to the park.
Yep.
They're such a staple at this point.
Tag, I'm surprised you weren't there.
My first visit was 88, so...
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've just always assumed that you've gone there your whole life.
I mean, you'd think that I was like born in the park or something, but no.
That's always been the feeling that I've had.
Yeah. I don't know. If you listen to these trivia questions, sometimes it doesn't even seem like I know what Disneyland is.
Sometimes. No, that's just because the listeners are so good at sending us the real stumpers.
That's true.
Speaking of a good stumper, from listener Jill M., your second question tonight, where can you find a first aid kit with the following items? A battery with jumper cables, a jar of bolts and washers, and shop towels. You said Mater's or at Sarge's, and the correct answer I was looking for was Flo's V8 Cafe.
You were so excited and then so disappointed and then wrong.
All of a sudden I was thinking about in the queue how there's I was thinking it was in one of those shed building things in the queue.
Your third listener submitted question tonight from listener Chris Y. What is the name of the suit of armor in Toad Hall?
If you got this,
Teresa said, Sir Stumped. And
Sir Stumped.
And Tag said, Colonel, I can't read my own writing. Colonel Armor?
Colonel Armor.
Colonel Armor. The correct answer that I was looking for was Sir Clanks-a-Lot.
Oh, that is good. Sir Clanks-a-Lot.
Well, you had the Sir, right? Didn't you?
Vern added.
I added the Sir.
You
All
had
she
the
said
Sir
was
and I
Stumped.
had the armor-ish kind of sounding thing.
So if you squint your eyes and look at it sideways,
Yep.
we basically
Yep. Yeah.
were
I mean,
right.
it's basically the same thing.
It's basically the same. Sir Clunks or Clinks?
Clanks-a-Lot.
Sir Clinks-a-Lot. It's like Lancelot. I love it.
My goodness.
I love it. We're going to have to go say hi to Sir
My
Clinks-a-Lot.
goodness. Okay.
Oh, man. Good question, Chris.
And your fourth and final regular round question tonight from listener Lynn B. Disney Imagineers give a nod to a famous fish in the Little Mermaid attraction. Who is that fish, and who is the actor who portrayed it? Your answers were Mr. Limpet, and no name for the actor, and Stumped. The correct answer that I was looking for was Mr. Limpet from The Incredible Mr. Limpet, played by Don Knotts.
Oh. I feel like I'm out of this loop and I need to watch this.
Don Knotts from Knott's Berry Farm? No?
I don't know.
Just kidding. Just kidding. So does Teresa get a half a point for that?
I did give a half point on that one, yes.
Woo!
And your bonus question tonight, where you got points. From listener Lisa K. In the Enchanted Tiki Room, what are the names of the 4 host parrots and what countries do they represent?
Oh, no.
You said
That's our point.
Jose from Mexico, Pierre from France, Fritz from Germany, and Michael from Ireland. The correct answer that I was looking for was Jose from Mexico, Pierre from France, Fritz from Germany, and Michael from Ireland.
Woo!
Woo, points for you.
That
Boom.
one out of... That was a little touch and go. I'm embarrassed for us.
Boom. Ireland, huh? Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that I always lean over to Teresa and go, oh my God, this is the worst accent of them all. It's not, they didn't even try.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised with how Disney is nowadays with the political correctness stuff that this hasn't been having to be re-recorded or something from, I don't know. It just seems, it's very much an attraction of its time.
Yes.
And it might be on the docket for getting upgraded.
Maybe.
Who knows?
It definitely needs a refurbishment, that's for sure.
Yeah, those poor birds.
Yeah. It's still a classic, though. I always do it at least once whenever we're around. And my mom enjoyed it last time we were out there.
I mean, Vern, I think you like it as a good napping spot.
I have stayed awake the last 3 times, thank you very much.
We saw producer Vern one time take a nap in the tiki room.
Well, that's the time you caught me.
Won't let him get away from it.
Okay, so listeners, I'm not necessarily diagnosed a narcoleptic, but I have a problem with if I sit down, I fall asleep. So for me to be in a dark room, air conditioned, sitting down, I'm most likely going to nod off.
So for fun, I wanted to look up the voice actors because I knew 2 of the 4, but it was Wally Bogue, that was Jose,
Fulton Burley was Michael. Ernie Newton, Pierre, and Thurl Ravenscroft was Fritz.
And Tongaroa.
Well, yes, and Tongaroa. I didn't do, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, and Wally Bogue was also the Barker bird.
Oh.
So, Wally Bogue, Fulton Burley, Ernie Newton, and Thurl Ravenscroft.
Well, listeners, how did you do listening at home or in your car
Better than
or on
us,
a
hopefully.
walk or wherever you listen? How do you feel about how Tag and Teresa did?
Not good.
Do you feel that you've got the great questions that can really stump them next time? Or maybe you've got a nice question that we can use as a bonus and make them feel good about themselves? Whatever question you've got, if you want to submit it, feel free to do so at trivia@dlweekly.net.
We will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us. And we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.